Hi guys! So today I have a 12 by 12 inch canvas and I mixed up some gold and teal, a dark teal color. I'm hoping this is going to work for a dirty cup pour. I did spritz the back of the canvas with some water just to tighten the canvas up. So if you ever have a really saggy canvas, you can just spritz some water on the back, and as it dries you're going to see it tighten up. So I've mixed up these two colors. I haven't added the silicone yet. Today I'm just using this silicone oil for acrylic pouring. As long as it's 100% silicone oil, you should be good. So I'm doing two big, maybe just three, because I have a lot of paint here. So I did mix up a lot of paint, but I can always use the leftovers for another canvas or to just do a really big cool paint skin. So with this, I'm just going to push the silicone down into the cup. Voila. Alright, now I was debating between doing a swipe with the gold and the teal or a dirty cup pour, but I'm just going to try a dirty cup pour, and if it doesn't work I can always work on a swipe. But I do have a really cool idea for when this canvas is done. I have this cool brass ring. There'll be a link in the description. And you're probably wondering, why are you using a brass ring with acrylic pour canvas? Well, I had this cool idea, so once this pour is dry, I'm going to let you know what's going to happen with this ring. So these are kind of cool, and I think it'll be a really neat project, and how you can kind of change up your acrylic pours after you pour them. Alright, let's give this a whirl. This is Old Gold from Artist Loft, and the teal was a combination of Brilliant Blue by Artist Loft, some aqua green, and a little bit of black. And if you're going to mix your own colors for acrylic pouring, make sure to mix them first before you add any Floetrol. Just a little hint there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Just gonna grab a little poker stick, give it a little bit of a swirly whirl, and some paper towel will be good. Alright, have that on hand. There we go. Just gotta make sure you guys are in frame. Perfect. Alright, so this is teal and gold. I'm really hoping the gold will come through on the teal, which it looks like it's going to. Grab my torch. So the torch is just so that it pops the silicone bubbles, helps get a few extra cells in there. That's looking really good. I'm going to move these guys. And I'm just going to take my finger and brush some of the paint over the edges so that the paint will flow over the edges really easily. So once it's already wet like this, it will flow over the sides a lot easier than if the edges are dry canvas. And you can use a paintbrush, or you don't have to use your finger like I'm using, but I just find it quick and easy to just use my finger Just make sure those edges are good and prepped, and that there's good amount of paint so that it'll just flow nicely over when I go to tilt. Alright, there's a lot of paint on here. So I'm going to go this way first. And you can just tilt in a circular format. Kind of like so, it just kind of goes slowly over your edges to get good coverage. I'm really loving what's happening here. I might bring some gold back in to this area. So don't be afraid to bring some color back in. You can do lines or you could swipe it. It's really up to you. You can totally adjust these any which way. So that's going to take a few days to dry, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the ring on this acrylic pour. But the gold is going to dry really shiny and bright. It just looks a little muted now because of the Floetrol. But once the Floetrol completely dries, clear, and evaporates, that gold is going to really sparkle. Alright, this is all dry now. And just going to clean the canvas. So I use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. You could pick this up at Walmart or anywhere on Amazon too. And you just want to take a little piece of paper towel. This is just to get the silicone off of the painting. So you'll see sometimes when you look at the painting there'll be grease spots. And you just want to remove those before you do anything else. So I can see a bit right here and here, but I just take a little bit, put it on a piece of paper towel. I make a even sweep going all the way down. You're going to see a little bit comes off, but it doesn't really wreck the painting. Now the key is not to re-wipe until all that alcohol has evaporated. Because if I was to take this now again and go over, it would make a mess and your paint would start to smear. But that's not looking too bad. I think that's pretty clean. I'm going to let that just evaporate. And I'm also going to put a layer of Liquid-X gloss varnish before I do what I'm going to do with the ring. So I have the ring here, but I'm going to make sure that my painting is well protected before I go in and create with the ring. And if this is evaporated, I can just use a broad paintbrush. So I'll have links in the description for Liquid-X gloss varnish and everything else used in this. And basically now that you can kind of see it's evaporated, I'm just going to squish them on and do a layer or two of gloss varnish just to make sure that this painting stays nice and protected. Okay, so this layer is dry, I just put a little bit of parchment paper down to protect the painting part. And this is my idea. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a dream catcher in the middle of the canvas. But in order to do that, I couldn't just cut a hole in the canvas and it would just fray and the string would probably rip. I did get some embroidery floss, and I also have this really thin 26 gauge gold wire, which might be cool instead of this, but either way I'll try seeing which one might work best for the dream catcher. And dream catchers are really easy to make. It's a super simple just threading of string in the middle. Now where this one's going to differ is that normally a dream catcher is just done on a ring, so you can kind of move the thread in and out for the exterior one, but because there's canvas I won't be able to do that, so I'm going to have to pull enough thread or string through to do the outside one first, and then I can just loop-de-loo the thread into the loops on the inside. But first what I want to do is to support the middle for the dream catcher is I'm going to glue this ring onto the back of the canvas to act as a support, and then I'll cut the middle out. So I got some super glue and this ring here, and I'm just going to center it. So we got about 2 1/4 on that side, which is way off, so we're probably going to need it more that way at 2 inches. I mean, it doesn't have to be super perfect, but center-ish. Kind of right there. And what I'm going to do is mark it. Now that I have it kind of centered, I'm just going to mark it with a Sharpie. And because this is the back of the canvas, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to see it. It'll be protected. That way, when I'm putting the glue on, I know exactly where to put it. So this is super glue, and you have to be very careful. It says to shake well. I'll have links in the description for this too. This is the gel glue, so it's more of a gel format. So it says it doesn't run, so I'm going to put it kind of on the outside where the ring is. And I'm going to want to glue the whole ring, so no gaps, so that that canvas will stick to the ring really good. You gotta be very careful with this glue because it will glue your skin together. That's looking pretty good. I'm actually excited for this Dreamweaver. Dreamcatcher Dreamweaver. Alright, now it does say that it bonds metal, plastic, paper, everything, so I'm thinking this will work really good. Wow, that's already super stuck. Sweet. And I didn't get any on me, so that's good. So it's going to take, it says, 10 to 45 seconds for it to kind of bond. So that's not very long at all, but I think it actually takes a little bit longer for it to fully adhere. So I'm going to give that a little bit to dry, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the inside out, and I'll probably fold back a little bit of the canvas to hide the ring on the back. And then it's just a matter of creating the dream catcher. Alright. I read the instructions, so it's 10 to 45 seconds. You gotta wait for the 2 services, and then 24 hours for a full cure, but I still want to cut the inside out and bend it over and glue it. So since it's been over a minute, I'm going to cut the inside of the canvas out. I'm doing this from the back with an X-Acto knife because I want to get the shape of the circle. I'm going to cut a little bit away from the edge of the ring so that I could fold it over. And I'll just make it look a lot neater on the front. And I'm using just a cutting board, a self-healing cutting board to do this. I'm just making sure to push firmly because I want to get not only through the canvas but also the paint on the painting in front. So I'm just going to peel that off, and look, we got a really cool actually paint skin with canvas that I could use for another art project. Most definitely. It's already coated with Liquid-X gloss and everything, but I think that's pretty cool. So I'll show you the front. So that's going to be the hole for the dream catcher. I think it's going to look really cool. So I want to be able to fold this over, but I'm going to have to make little slots in order to fold it over, because I won't be able to just, if you don't have any little slots, you won't be able to fold it over. So I'd say everywhere from like a 1/2 inch thick, just like so, that you can just fold it over the ring, and I'll end up gluing that down. Just like that. So you just want to go all the way around the ring and cut little lines coming out from the ring, about a 1/2 inch each. Doesn't have to be super accurate, but... And so if you get an acrylic pour that you're not in love with, let's say, or you re-pour it or something and you want to do something really cool and pretty to it, why not try adding a dream catcher to the middle of it, or even the top if you have a long one. You could definitely add a tiny little dream catcher on a corner. I think I'm going to do one of those where I add like a littler one. You could also, if you can't get these hoops, you could also use an embroidery hoop too. The reason I went with a metal ring is I wanted it to be really sturdy, whereas the embroidery hoops are made of wood, so they might break under the pressure, but... Yeah, if you were to get an acrylic pour that, let's say you're sort of liking, but you're not really sure, but you want to do something more to it, this is definitely an option to just really enhance it, give it as a really cool gift for someone. Kind of fun. And dream catchers are pretty easy to put the string around. It's just a circling really and knotting. Not even as hard as macrame or anything. And they're super fun. I am clearly putting way more lines than I probably have to, but that's okay. Oops, I actually there was already one there. Alright, so I'm going to work on peeling all this back, just like so. I think that looks pretty cool. I could have even cut a little bit longer. As you can see, my cuts only go halfway around the hoop. So I could have even cut the circle a little bit smaller in the middle, so you could actually get the canvas to go all the way down to the other side. But that could be your preference, or if you want, you could just cut right at the edge of the hoop and not fold it over like I'm doing. But I think that this is going to look a little bit better from the front if this is folded over like so. And we just see, because this is all going to be hidden, so I think that's going to look really good. Perfect. So that's good for the cutting. I'm going to remove this board so you can see the hole in the middle. And then once this is gone over, it's going to look really cool for the dream catcher in the middle here. And you can make sure to get some cool stones and stuff that you might want to add to the dream catcher to enhance it. Like I said, I might do some gold stuff. So I'm going to use this super glue again. This is the gel super glue. It seems to work really good. You just got to be really careful not to get it on yourself. So you could also maybe use like a hot glue gun as well instead of super glue. But this stuff is holding up pretty good and it doesn't really leak. So I don't mind it. As long as I don't get it on myself, should be good. Okay, I think I'm going to let that sit for a little bit so that it dries really good. But that looks pretty awesome even from this side. And I'll get my string ready. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the wire or the embroidery thread, but I thought gold would be really pretty. This is kind of a different gold than what I've got. I might use the embroidery thread. Would be really pretty for the dream catcher on the inside. You can get a waxy thread that they usually use for dream catchers too, or you can go with a colored thread if you want. So let this dry, I'll come back and we'll start creating the dream catcher. Okay, now it's all dry. I just put this in the middle. It's kind of cool. So you can see that the ring and everything is dried on and it's pretty much ready to go for the dream catcher. So I have my thread. I think I'm going to go with the thread instead of the wire. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I have to know or measure out how much string I'm going to need for the border loops, because I won't be able to put the whole grouping of thread through the hole, as it'll be quite small. Whereas normally you would just go around the hoop. So I'm gonna go around twice, like so. Even if there's a little bit extra, I think it'll be okay. So that I know that I have enough thread to thread it for the outside one. So about that much. I'm just gonna put that right there so I know that's where I kind of end it. And I'm basically, so I have a needle here. It's just it's not a sharp, it's just one of those embroidery needles. And I'm going to use the whole thread. Just going to thread it on the needle to be able to puncture through the canvas and the paint. Now what I might do is I might mark, just with a charcoal pencil, I'm just going to mark where I need. I don't know if this is going to show up. Maybe not. I'll just keep it over here as kind of, that's how much thread I kind of need to go through. So I'm going to start right at the bottom in the middle here. And what I want to do is I want to just basically put the needle through the middle bottom. Just like that. So this is as though I'm coming around the hoop. So I had it here, so I'm going to pull a little bit extra. And I'm going to go back around, so I'm going to go through the middle and back up through the same hole I did on the back side, to kind of do like a little bit of a loopy knot. And this is just going to hold the rest of this string from getting entangled in the end. And I can even do this. So I can make a little knot here and just tie it. There, perfect. So that's just going to make sure that that's nice and secure and that none of it can keep moving through the rest of it. And basically what you want to do is you're going to, in equal distances, so for this dream catcher, what you want to do is you want to make sure you have an even distance for all of your, where you're going to put your needle through. So you want to decide how many like loops you want for this dream catcher. And I can mark them with a charcoal white marker. So a good thing to do is, so here's the middle of the other one, is I can just take this charcoal white marker and mark right here on the circle. And then I would mark the edges here and straight across from that. And this will not, you can just wipe this chalk mark. It's probably hard to see it, but it is there. You can just wipe this chalk mark off after, and that way it doesn't wreck your painting or anything, because I can just do this and it'll disappear. So if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I could do 8 evenly for the loops. So if I have that mark there and I go in the middle here, just even out the spaces and then run your thread through like a loop and then go through into this loop just like so. So you're going to see how I did that. That's going to create a nice starting point for your dream catcher. And you want to do that and just keep going around the circle to get all of those. So if I do this evenly, right about there is good. So I'm going to have the loop, and then I'm going to go into the loop, pull that without pulling this. There we go, kind of like that. So you just keep going all the way around, creating the foundation for the dream catcher. So we don't need this thread anymore, but I'm going to leave it hooked up because I'm going to use it to tie a bunch of feathers to the bottom. So I'm just going to tuck it away into the back of the canvas for now. And what I'm going to work with is this thread from the beginning loop because there's way more thread on it. I'm just using this so you guys can kind of see. So from this one, I'm going to run it in through here as the starting point. And what I want to do is basically I'm going to put the whole grouping of thread through the first loop, just like so, and then back through this loop. So it's going to create kind of like a double. You're just going to knot, just like we did in the canvas, you're going to knot it in the middle of each of the loops all the way around. And that's what's going to, you want to really try and find where the middle is. That's what's going to start your dream catcher. basically creating these knots. And you can kind of see how it's starting to form. So I'm going through the hoop from the bottom, up through the middle, and then I'm pulling this loop and having the yarn go through that way, and I'm pulling it tight so that the knot is in the middle, as best I can, in the middle of the next grouping. And you just keep going all the way around, repeating the same process to create the dream catcher. Okay, so something else you can do is you can add gemstones and stuff. So what I did was I unraveled the entire thing. So this is the end of the thread. And I got some really pretty beads and stuff that kind of match with the color scheme. So I can pretty much add these in as I'm making my dream catcher. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually just thread it back on the needle and see if I can get it through one of these crystals. And you want to pick some that are a good size. And then I have to run it all the way through. Down to the end. Just unwind it from the hook. And there. You can incorporate it as you're weaving. Now I have this as a big bunch, but you can untangle it and work it in order to get these on, which is what I did with the embroidery thread. Just like that. And then you just keep going around, and then you can add another bead later on to the other side and just go through the loop, through the big loop, creating a little loopy knot in the center of each segment. So here's where I might want to add another bead. I think I'm going to add one of these blue ones. Yeah, which are rolling around everywhere. So once again, I'm going to see if I can get the needle through, which I can, through the tiny little bead. Just making sure that the hole is big enough for this needle. So you want to make sure you don't pick any beads where the hole might be too small. And then you just feed the thread through. Trying to make sure it doesn't get knotted or tangled. And then I can have a bead right there. So So I pick up all of the thread again, feed it under. It's gonna get harder as it gets tighter, but it's just a matter of working it through and trying not to get it too knotted. In there. So basically you just keep knotting it around and around, and then at the end I just added a crystal in the middle and tied off the end in the back on the side of the crystal so I could hide the end piece. And that is the dream catcher portion of it. I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. I put the circle behind so you can just kind of see the actual pattern of the dream catcher. I don't even mind this circle behind, but that's it without the middle piece. So when you hang it on your wall or whatever, you would see the color of your wall and whatnot through. Now if you remember, I did leave some thread right here, so that I'm going to weave it through the middle part. And this way you can also add, oh, I got a knot. Okay, so basically my idea was I have some colored feathers that are like blues. Super pretty. And I was thinking I can just attach some feathers down below to have them hang down from the dream catcher. And I can even go around and glue some feathers to the edge here if I wanted to kind of spoof it up a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add my feathers. I'm just going to use this, tie a knot, and kind of wrap it around. And then maybe add a little dollop of glue on there. Once I figure out which ones I'm going to use and accent with. That's pretty much it. I'm going to let this little one dry a bit. But I love how it turned out. And I think it's a great idea to embellish a pour. Maybe if you didn't like the way the pour turned out, or you didn't get a lot of cells, or you just wanted to, you did get a really good pour, but you wanted to dress it up a little bit different, you could definitely add a dream catcher in the middle. I think I'm going to do another one of these using a long canvas, so I'll definitely video that with some different colors. But I thought this would be a fun crafty project to embellish your acrylic pours. So I just want to say a huge thank you everybody for watching, subscribing, liking, and commenting. I greatly appreciate it, and definitely check out the links below, and I greatly appreciate when you use my Amazon links. I get a small commission and they help me out greatly, and there's no extra expense to you guys, so thank you so much, and I hope you guys have fun creating.